Good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. Hi, Sushant. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, very good.
Great. So today we will be discussing about something which is very becoming very common among supplements, right? So there is a very specific ingredient which is called L-arginine, and these days we can see it is being used in a lot of supplements. If you talk about exercise performance, if you talk about amino acids deficiency, everywhere it is being commonly used. So Sushant, I would like to begin this discussion with my first question that what is the impact of excess L-arginine on our bodies and how does it actually metabolize inside our bodies?
So, let us first go to the basics, right? L-arginine is a semi-essential amino acid. It means that your body, there is an indigenous production of L-arginine inside your body, right? So, and it's so much that you really do not need an external intake of L-arginine, whether it is food such as legumes, fish, right? High protein diet, or probably L-arginine supplements which are generally available. So we generally align or probably relate L-arginine supplements with exercise performance and even with sexual health, right? But taking this supplement you know, is actually going to have a very harmful impact because our body do not need that much L-arginine, right? So let us break it down. What are the sources of L-arginine, how it operates, why excess L-arginine is actually harmful, right?
Right.
So again, as I mentioned, L-arginine is a semi-essential amino acid. It is produced by urea cycle, right?
Mm.
So there are two major pathways where it is produced. One is this produced in liver, where it is actually, specific enzyme arginase actually converts into urea production and ornithine. Ornithine again further, recycles into citrulline. Again, citrulline gets converted into L-arginine, right? So that's a typical biochemistry in a healthy individual which happens, right? So again, L-citrulline is something which for instance, a food such as watermelon have L-citrulline, right? So it is actually produced in the gut. So L-arginine could be produced from L-citrulline, but that's a very long process, or it requires that's a three-step away from L-arginine, right? And again, the purpose of L-arginine is to produce nitric oxide. It is a precursor for nitric oxide, right? So essentially, there's this cycle is going on through liver, which is converting ornithine, and it gets converted into citrulline and then arginine, and that's a typical cycle, right? It is not the arginine produced by liver is not found in the circulation, right? Other is produced via kidney, which is again circulated in various parts of the body, and again, that is a normal way, right? Uh, how L-arginine produce nitric oxide is again a function of endothelial cell, right? So endothelial, so we know there are three isoforms of these nitric oxide, nitric synthase. One is endothelial nitric synthase, other is, neural, and third is inducible, right? So, so the ENOS and NNOS is something which what we call NOS1 and NOS3 also now, right? Is actually constantly expressed inside the body, right? But inducible is actually induced, uh, through some external inflammatory cascades. If there's a lot of cytokine storm, or if there's some injury, something like that, So and INOS induced, INOS is actually harmful, which the nitric oxide produced by INOS is harmful, while ENOS and NOS is really beneficial, right? ENOS, when it is coupled with endothelial cell, we have discussed that it is lining every blood vessel. Right? It is the
Right. Right.
largest. So if you put all the endothelial cells on a football ground, it will be, maybe 15 teams taken together. Right? That's the kind of
Okay.
endothelium we have inside our body, right? So
So these endothelial cells you're talking about, is it specific to gut or is it everywhere in the
everywhere,
body? Everywhere.
everywhere,
Okay. So
everywhere,
these
right?
are the endothelial cells that you're talking about. They are everywhere in the body.
Yeah.
And whatever reactions are taking place inside the body through L-arginine, whatever metabolites are produced, it is going to towards
So
those
So
endothelial cells.
how it happens is that these so endothelial cells so synthase is it's an enzyme, right, which is again which we know, so basically enzyme, there's a lot of protein within the enzyme which perform biochemical reactions, right? So
Yes,
this
yes.
enzyme is coupled with endothelium cell, right? And if it is coupled, it it actually in the presence of oxygen, it converts L-arginine into nitroxide and citrulline. Again, citrulline as mentioned gets converted to L-arginine. That's a normal process, right?
Yes.
So that's a normal way to look at it, right? Uh, and in case of if endothelial cell is dysfunctional, for instance, in case of there's oxidative stress, if you're taking too much of protein, if your gut microbiome is producing a lot of endoxyl sulfate of big salt, which causes oxidative stress, right? Oxidative stress leads to endothelial cell dysfunction. There's uncoupling of this and uncoupling of ENOS and it suppresses your nitric oxide, right? So in this case, still when people you say you have so much nitric oxide arginine that your nitric oxide would be produced, right? There is no deficiency as such, right? Because it's more than 20% of what is required, right? So, but what happens is then we take lot of L-arginine, right? So one way is arginase, which is again an enzyme, competes with ENOS for L-arginine, right? So when you eat too much or consume too much of it through dietary choices, right? L-arginine, arginase converts L-arginine into urea, protein and polyamine cell, right? And it's excreted to the body or it triggers inflammatory cascades, right? And even when specifically your endothelial cell dysfunction, right?
Mm. Mm.
So it is not put to use to produce nitric oxide, probably NOS, ENOS converts into superoxide, which again causes oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, we know one
Right,
of the biomarker for cardiovascular disease, right?
right, right.
So nitric oxide is something which is required. L-arginine is one of the substrate, but you don't need to take too much of it, right? You can easily your body automatically produces it, even if you're sick, right? Your
So, Sushant, I would like to hold this thought here that for the benefit of all our listeners. So, L-arginine is something which is naturally produced inside the body. That's what you're saying, right? And you don't need to externally administer it in order to, you know, now what about the deficiencies? When they're talking about deficiencies, okay, we are a protein deficient nation and they are administering it to each and every person. So how is it actually adversely impacting our bodies? Would you like to shed some light on that?
I think we discussed this, but briefly, it is a wrong notion, wrong assumption that we are a protein deficient nation,
I
right?
have heard this
We
many times, and seriously, I am having heard it. I am totally sick of it because if you talk about a protein deficient nation, why don't you go to the rural areas and see what kind of diet they do have?
that's what I'm
So
telling. So if
yeah,
you have a protein deficiency, you can't even do normal functions, right? So
exactly.
so because amino acid is required for various biological cellular processes, right?
Yeah.
So coming on L-arginine also, right? There's an external administration knowing and knowing. So when you take protein powders, there's certain protein powders. I'm not sure everyone, but certain protein powders have L-arginine, right? And you really do not need it. So understand that your body produces it, even if you're in a sick state, right? When suppose you have an end stage renal disease or you have a kidney disease, right? Still your body preserves a bit of there's an L-arginine concentration in plasma or there's an L-citrulline concentration, right? So essentially you don't need that, right? Excess of it either activates L-arginine, which converts into polyamines and proline and urea, which again extremely doesn't help or probably it can trigger inflammation. That is another aspect, right? If you have a lot of probably a lot of oxidative stress because of a lot of high protein diet, as I mentioned previously, which is again a byproduct of tyrosine or indoxacitrate, which is byproduct of tryptophan, right? So it could actually lead to production of superoxide, which is again cause oxidative stress, which increases cardiovascular disease, right? Most of sorry, just a second. Most of it generally take because they think it is going to improve your exercise performance. It's a nitric oxide precursor, right? So, and again, a lot of people also they are recommended to take this because it may improve sexual health. Again, it is linked to blood flow. So, we know nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It regulates your blood pressure. It regulates your
Yes.
blood flow.
We have
It
spoken this several
it
times, and I think
yeah
the audience is listening to us frequently. They do know that nitric oxide is a vasodilator now. So
yeah.
by
So
now, they do know the functions of nitric oxide. Yes.
from exercise performance, so I think we did a talk earlier also on this exercise performance that
Yes.
it regulates
Yes.
oxygen uptake and oxygen and nutrient delivery, right?
Yeah.
So even uh, that is really important to understand. Nitric oxide is really important, right? So L-arginase is substrate, right? Is a precursor, right? So if your ENS is uncoupled because of oxidative stress inflammation or a lot of other inflammatory cascades, or there's a lot of oxidation of tetrahydrobiopterin, which is again a cofactor which is required to produce nitric oxide, right? Or there's a lot of production of ADMA, increased expression of ADMA, which is asymmetric dimethyl arginine, which is an NO inhibitor, right? So there can multiple factor which suppress your nitric oxide production, right? So taking too much of L-arginine is going to harm you. It is going to produce a lot of other molecules, which is going to trigger inflammatory cascades or further oxidative stress, right? So you do not need L-arginine, too much of L-arginine, right? Even until unless you are a bodybuilder, right? Until unless
Right.
you, right? Second thing is even nitric oxide, that is one pathway. Other pathway we have discussed about oral microbiome, right? So it is not only the one pathway which actually, uh, which is the only pathway. So oral microbiome is the most important because the L-arginine pathway, the NENOS pathway starts, the ability to produce nucleic acid goes down as we age, right? So oral macron again convert
It
nitrate into
becomes
nitrate.
less, you mean, it becomes lesser
Yeah,
as you age. Yeah.
yeah. So by the age of 50, your body's ability to produce nitric oxide is only 50% of the total,
Oh.
right? Right.
So
So
that's
so
that's that's pretty concerning because what we have seen that this is actually 40s. Now, I mean, obviously 30s has become an age group where you start acquiring these diseases, right?
yeah,
And
so
so,
few thing is important. So disease, right? Any disease, they are four factors which cause the disease, right? Uh, Lack of nitric oxide production, right?
yes,
Reduced blood flow, immune dysfunction, inflammation, oxidative stress, right? And we know the role of microbiome in all of these uh, inflammatory cascades, right? So oral microbiome is a certain microbes which converts nitrate into nitrite and which goes to stomach acid and converts into nitric oxide. So people who are taking PPIs have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease because PPIs removes all your stomach acid, your body cannot produce nitric oxide, right? So both pathways are there, but the oral microbiome is especially important, right? And especially when you are having certain inflammation, right, inside the body, or there's some injury or some cytokine storm is going on, right? So taking L-arginine is going to induce INOS, right, which is inducible nitric oxidase, which is pro-inflammatory. This there is an you know, feedback loop inhibition. So it suppresses your ENOS and NNOS, right? Which
right.
again further causes oxidative stress. And again, NNOS, I'll touch briefly, probably there's a different discussion we can do because NNOS is neural nitrosynthase. It regulates cerebral blood flow to the brain, right? It That's why nitric oxide is also considered as neurotransmitter, right? Uh,
Okay.
right. Coming on
And
to
what is ENOS, if you would like to just briefly describe
ENOS,
it?
ENOS
ENOS.
is endothelial nitrosynthase, which
So
is
that
the
is the cells, which is
that
going to the
is
cells.
that is attached to all endothelium cells, right?
Right, right.
Right. So again, this is important. Probably nitric oxide is also impact your aging and longevity. It do impacts your telomere length. It do impacts your mitochondrial function, right? Inflammation, oxidative stress. Probably that's a different discussion. We'll talk maybe in a couple of
On
days. We'll have
aging.
aging. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just to cut it short, right? We don't need L-arginine externally. We don't need L-citrulline. right? This is the wrong notion that you need to take supplement, you need for improving your exercise performance or pumping yourself or sexual health or probably, cardiovascular impacts, right? You don't need to take too much of L-arginine. It is going to cause oxidative if there's already inflammation or it is going to, it is going to, so L-arginine compete with NOS, it will convert into, urea and other biomolecules. It is not going to benefit it, probably backfire it, it could
Right.
trigger inflammation, right? So you don't need that much of it. And so there are multiple factors you have to look at here. You can't just gallop a capsule of L-arginine and you're done, right? So that is something that is what we call as L-arginine paradox, right?
Okay.
So if you take too much of external L-arginine, which generally you may or may not know you're taking from various high protein diets, right? As I mentioned, it's there in the fish, it's there in the legumes, beans, right? Soya bean, dairy products also, red meat, chicken, everyone has L-arginine, right? So you don't need to take too much of it, right? It is actually dose dependent. So probably you take too much of it, it causes inflammation, it causes production of polyamines, it could be excreted from the body without getting any benefit, or probably, it could, or if they are undergoing inflammation, it would induce INOS, which is again going to suppress your ENOS and NNOS. And we know nitric oxide, there is suppression of nitric oxide production, which is linked to your cardiovascular disease, your diabetes, your obesity, sexual dysfunction, brain health, longevity, cell dysfunction, metabolic dysfunction, number of things, right? So,
Mm.
so you have to consider is that first there's no need to extremely take supplements like L-arginine or L-citrulline. Your body makes it on your own, right? It is used to produce nitric oxide, provided your ENOS is functional, right? Uh, Taking out too much of it would be used to produce urea and other byproducts, which is not going to benefit, right? Or if there is an industrial health dysfunction, it could lead to production superoxide, which causes further oxidative stress, right? So even you're taking too much of it, if you have, there's oxidation of tetrahydrobiopterin, or there's, a lot of operational edema, which is going to trigger, a lot of issues, a lot of inflammatory cascades, right? So you do not need to take L-arginine or L-citrulline. That's the basic of it. Yeah.
That's actually pretty alarming because we have seen a lot of people, young people taking these supplements, right, for
Mm.
exercise performance, and some people are being prescribed for erectile dysfunction simultaneously. And this is very serious, and I think this needs to be addressed. So I think with this, we have come to the end of this discussion. So Sushant, any last words for the people who wants to go for a quick fix? Because you know what happens is I have seen supplements as a market is booming. There is no end to it. We all know that nutraceuticals are becoming really popular. There is no regulatory to it. For those people who are buying, there is no standard regulation. You only get a marketing license from a regulatory authority, right? But is there a toxicity screening? Is there a test? Because yesterday only I was browsing through some specific ingredients which are used in all these supplements. I pretty much I remember I shared it with you that WHO has released a toxicity screening of all the artificial sweeteners and whatever extra ingredients they are adding. So there is a certain kind of toxicity screening which should be done in order to determine what are the adverse health impacts, right? So what are your any last words for all those people who are into supplements, who are lot into supplements?
It's very common sense first thing. Supplement by the name is supplementing your diet. The first and foremost thing you should feed your body with the right food, right? It is right for your biology, right? In that case, do not go for any bad diets what some coach or some nutritionist or trainer is telling you, right? The body is a sack of biochemical reactions. There are tens of thousands of chemical reaction happens at the body every time you ingest something, right? It is not a what do you call something very very straightforward linear that you take high protein, low carbs, and fats, and this is a typical thing everyone is focusing on. Food is much more than that, right? And even taking supplements is why do you need, how much you need, right? Supplements is actually you have to do very precision supplementation at a molecular level. These all supplements are have a lot of synthetic things, right, which could overload your kidneys and liver, which could trigger inflammation, right, which may have a determined impact on a lot of things. And again, these are precursors. We have to understand that you're taking that if there are some biochemical reactions are not happening inside the body because of inflammation, because of exercise, because of some other low nitric acid production or gut inflammation or inflammation, right? It is actually not going to benefit you,
Right.
right? Right. So that, for instance, if you are taking PPIs, if there's low stomach acid or there's acid reflux, you're not going to get vitamin B12, you're not going to vitamin D, you're not going to magnesium, a lot of these supplements which are required, right? So essentially, this is the challenge. You need to understand how each of these food sector interact with inside your body, with your microbiome, with your cells, with your mitochondria, with your oral microbiome, with your gut microbiome, right? So it's not as simple as it seems, right? So these are not a solution. So consider this: if you're taking supplements, you may be feeling good right now, you may be having an psychological impact that, oh, I've taken this supplement, I'm fine,
So
I may have.
I also feel it is pretty much psychological. It's like a feeling that I'm taking a medicine and it might work. So yes,
So
some impact is going to be there, but I'm not sure whether it is long term or not. Because when you stop taking those supplements, your symptoms they come back,
It's it's
right?
it's not also about stop taking. It's also about when you're taking things wrongs, right? You don't know whether it is right or wrong. Probably it is going to inflammation, and you may move towards a disease, right? In few years, right? You may not think right now because most of the chronic disease, the sad part is most of them are asymptomatic, right? You don't
Hmm.
learn whether your disease until unless you have been dealing with that disease over 5, 6, 7 years, right? And you think, okay, I developed it in few months back. No, you started developing 10 years back, right? You
So,
don't know.
with this, I do remember when I do remember those instances when we were treating the histamine intolerance, right? I mean, I am one of those patients, I would like to say. And you remember the kind of struggles we have gone through without any I mean, people with histamine tolerances, they cannot even take probiotics or these supplements because anyways, it is going to inflame it, right?
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
took it took us a couple of years in order to take control of that situation. But now with this kind of information that is available on our engine Protiba, on gene Fithletics proprietary algorithm, I think it's pretty much evident that these things can be taken control of, the symptoms and whatever
yeah.
adverse impacts happening
So,
on the
so,
body.
so some people who drink caffeine have inflammation, have low energy, or digestive issue, bloating, constipation.
Right.
Probably you may think it is better for exercise performance. It improves also there are studies which say it improves your mitochondrial biogenesis, improves your longevity. But again, if you have histamine signaling, high histamine intolerance, probably coffee is really, really bad,
It's
right?
really bad, yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
once upon a time, I used to be a coffee addict, and now there's no coffee in my life at all. I'm on herbal teas and
So
whatnot.
everything is dose dependent, right? And what
Yes,
dose your biology needs right now is all depends on your biology. You need to decode it, right? So you can't
yes,
generalize it based on your blood test or urine test or whatever normal blood works, right? So that is something important, right? So
yeah.
that is what we like to close. I do not take L-arginine L-citrulline supplements. It's all waste of time and money and even your health, right? If you have a lot of issues with excess performance, probably your body is not producing your nitric oxide, your oral macros imbalance, you're taking too much of mouthwash, which we discussed yesterday also, right? Mouthwash fluoride and all these things could impact your oral microbiome or the nitric oxide production, or right? So avoid these supplements. That is what I want to say then. Yeah.
Thank you, Sushant. This was a very intuitive discussion. And for all our listeners, thank you for listening our talks time and again. Please feel free to share this with whoever needs this information. And obviously, whenever you're willing to understand this adverse impact of any supplement, do search on Google the content or the specific ingredient that you have found on the supplement and added with adverse impact on gut microbiome or maybe
Mm.
oral microbiome, right? And I think
Mm.
you will definitely get some really good research which is peer reviewed and which is scientific in nature, and you will definitely come across some research which will actually tell you what is going to happen if you consume this in excess. Just
Yeah.
don't believe on anyone. I mean, we could be biased or anyone could be biased because they have to sell the supplements, but do your own research before buying any supplements. That's right,
Yeah.
Sushant?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
listening to this talk. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.